Welcome to Inaky's Coffee Club. Today we have two very important guests with me today. They're also friends of mine and colleagues of mine, as well as my lovely assistant, Madelyn my co-host, what I meant to say. We have Madelyn and Barrett Hauser here today. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
This is great.
Absolutely. Do y'all want to give a quick intro of who you are, what you do, and how we know each other?
Sure. Go ahead, on.
You can go first.
Well, my name is Barrett Hauser. I'm a real estate agent here at Keeper Sotheby's International Realty. I focus primarily on horse properties and land. I'm also a avid hunter and a horseman myself, so that's a little bit about me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So kind of the same thing. I'm Madelyn. People call me Maddie Hauser. Also a real estate agent at Keeper Sotheby's. I work with my mom, Elizabeth Cooper, and also happen to be married to Barrett, of course.
Yeah.
And also happen to be part of the Cooper family. So we're kind of all in this together, but we do horse properties, ranches, luxury residential, all in the Texas Hill Country area. Also ride horses, been a horsewoman my entire life and just live life selling real estate and riding horses, I guess.
That's so cool.
Awesome.
And yeah, I mean, you're part of the Cooper family. So, you know, and that's who founded Cooper Sotheby's International Realty. So what was it like growing up there? And really, like, who are your family members? Like, how are you tied to Cooper?
So my stepdad, he's actually really more like my dad, is Charlie Cooper, and he founded Cooper Sotheby's in 1972. So we're going on, I think, 51 years this year of family business. Growing up, I swore I was never going to do real estate. I was like, I am not doing this. This is way too stressful. But, you know, I think kind of growing up in it and seeing the true behind the scenes of Charlie actually running the company, you know, there was obviously a lot of emotion that came with that. And seeing how he was able to persevere through running the business, managing all the personalities, the different agents, the crisis, you know, that we see on a daily basis in this industry, and then realizing like, wow, he never gave up. He just kept going, and kept pushing. I think finally when I was about 22, I thought to myself, okay, I kind of need to get serious. Like I need a big girl job that's going to pay for my horses and well, might as well join real estate. So my mom got her license, and then in 2018, I got my license, and then our business kind of took off in 21, which I know that was kind of par for the course for a lot of agents, you know, in that time period. And then we kind of never looked back. So
That's awesome.
It's been really amazing to share that real estate passion with my mom, and then have Charlie in the background to kind of coach us and guide us through. And then, of course, Barrett, we all kind of serve a different purpose.
Yeah, I think it's wild
really cool.
that you did not want to be in the industry.
Right.
Because, you know, your entire family was in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think I understand why my parents wanted to go to La Fonda so often for margaritas.
Yeah.
Yes,
When I
definitely.
was little. It's like, and I tell Charlie that all the time, like, man, I really understand why you wanted a good margarita on, you know, different nights, but it's been really cool. And I don't think I ever would have done it without having them, because that wasn't really my passion. My passion's always been horses or fashion along those lines, but they kind of really set me on the path like, oh, this is actually kind of rewarding. I like this.
Yeah, and talk about having the best mentor for this industry, right?
Totally. And we go to Charlie. I mean, Barrett was just on the phone with Charlie a couple weeks ago for one of the deals he was working on. Like we go to Charlie all the time because, you know, we're all different personalities.
Yeah.
And then he is still that very grounded business mind where he knows how to work through pretty much anything, I would say. Wouldn't you agree,
Yeah.
honey? Anything that you throw at Charlie, he's like, okay, this is what you do. I know you're not going to want to do it this way, but you're going to have to do it this way to make the deal happen.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
so
So,
valuable to have.
It is. It really
We always
is.
say that he's retired, but he's not.
never
You know,
retired.
he's always working on something, always tinkering with something,
Exactly.
answering questions. Yeah.
And he
it's
likes
pretty wild.
it. You know, I mean,
Right.
he devoted 50 years of his life
Yeah.
to bringing Cooper, obviously not the entire 50 years because he did retire in like 2003-ish when he sold the company. But, you know, you eat, sleep, breathe this for your whole entire life. And Cooper is really that family business.
Right.
You know,
right.
that's really at the core values. So that's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Barrett, I know that real estate's kind of in your blood too, right?
Sure.
Like your father was a home builder, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it started with my grandfather. My grandfather was an attorney and an agent. He mostly worked kind of in South Carolina, but my dad was an agent, has been a home builder, developer, you know, his whole life. And so at very same way, I was like, not doing real estate.
Yeah.
Don't want anything to do with homes.
Nobody wants to do it
Right.
with their family. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I mean, I guess maybe some people do, but
Yeah.
growing up, you're like, ew, I don't want to do
You
that.
want to do your own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I was getting done with college and, you know,
Right.
had a degree. And my dad said, well, until you figure out exactly where you want to be, just get your license and you can come sell my homes and stuff. And so I was
Right.
like, okay, that sounds good. So I did and started really just enjoying it and loving it. And I was like, okay, this is kind of nice. Let's just do this.
That's
So
wild.
yeah, I just kind of fell into it. And yeah, it's funny. The things that you say you'll never do,
Right. Right.
you always end up doing to some
Exactly.
degree. Yeah.
And Madelyn, real estate's in your family as well.
Yes. So my mother-in-law has been in real estate for almost 20, probably over closer to 25 now.
Nice.
She's been a realtor in the Kingsville area, so South
Oh, wow.
Texas. hmm And then my mom is actually a real estate agent too. She got her license a little bit before me, and she's in Uvalde.
Nice.
So we kind of have the whole Texas area
Yeah.
kind of covered. But yeah, it's nice to have somebody in your family that you can bounce ideas
I was
off of
just
too.
thinking that.
Yeah.
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 That's really nice.
Because even if you've done a crazy amount of transactions, there's always going to be something that you're like, I don't really know.
Right.
And let me just ask somebody like really quickly. And they can have a crazy perspective that you didn't even think of.
For sure.
And you're like, well, I'm glad I picked up the phone and called.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years, and there's still days where I'm like, I haven't seen that scenario before.
100%.
And
Totally.
so my go-to is Carolyn Rhodes, our
Yeah. Oh,
senior
yeah.
vice
Yes.
president.
We
She's
have our
all
own
knowing.
speed dial.
Yeah, yeah. So I would call her and be like, "Hey, have you seen this before? What should I do here?" So it's always good to have mentors, no matter how experienced you are.
Yeah.
You know, to your point,
Totally.
sometimes it's just about a different expertise, different
Yeah.
experience, different
Yeah.
view on the subject.
Yeah. It's valuable. And that's where I think we're fortunate. We're all fortunate that we can pick up the phone and call management or call legal and say like, hey, what do you think? And just let's get it figured out.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no reason to be egotistical enough to say like, I don't need help with that.
yeah. Right.
I don't
It's
think you
silly.
can be that way and be successful in this
Exactly.
industry, because I feel like every single transaction is a new challenge. I mean, obviously there's some that you look back and you're like, wow, that was really easy. Like, okay, great. And
Yeah.
then there's others where you're like, oh my gosh, like I bit off way more than I can chew. But I think, having my mom in that scenario, we all joke and call her the Velvet Hammer.
Okay.
Because I'm very good at like the behind the scenes, the paperwork, the marketing, the writing. I
Yes.
love that. She is amazing at like any problem you throw at her, she's like, I'm on it.
Yeah.
Like she's a bulldog. I don't know how she does it. And she's the sweetest person ever, but she can navigate some of the trickiest transactions. Like 21, we had one in particular that was just, we thought it was game over, and it was a large ranch listing, and she handled it and was able to finesse it from closing, or from the initial get-go to closing, which took about 3.5 months. And I've never seen her come out of her shell that way, but
Yeah.
it was like, wow, like you're awesome, you can do this. So having her in our corner is, it's so cool. But like I said, we all have such a good dynamic that it's great to be able to ask, Barrett, hey, what should I do here? Or Charlie, what should I do here? Or Mom, how should I handle this? Can you help me with this? So yeah, it's nice to have those people in your corner.
Yeah, because with real estate, right, I feel like consumers think that it's just one thing, right? Like
Oh,
selling real
totally.
estate's one thing, but in reality, there's so many subsets of real estate. Like for you guys, you do a lot of farm and ranch, hunting property, equestrian property, and those are totally different specialities, right? Like those are things that I probably wouldn't get myself into. I'd want to partner with y'all on
Sure.
something
Right.
like that, right?
It's so different.
It is so different. It is.
Well, and us being around horses in the industry all the time, like we see things that we often will go to properties and point out little things, and someone goes like, "Oh, I never heard that from another agent," or I never even thought to think about it. It's like, yeah, but we're around this stuff all the time. It's the same with you guys and your specialties. Like you pick out little things that you see before anybody else sees, and they're like, that's the value that you bring to the clients.
Exactly. Yeah, it's those little things that make the big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about horses. That's you guys have 4?
All day long we can do
Or
it.
yeah, we can
Oh
talk.
my
This
gosh.
is our jam.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started riding when I was 3, and I just turned 30 this year. So it's been a long, long journey. My mom was a horse girl. She definitely passed it down to me. So started riding dressage, which is the horse ballet, is what we like to call it, in 2004, and then never looked back. Like
Wow.
it's become my entire personality, but it's fine. So with that, grew up around horses, started competing dressage in 2004, and then worked my way up the levels to where I was competing at the international levels with my mare, Leah, who I retired in 2019. So I always told myself that I wanted to marry someone that understood the horse thing because you have to. I mean, you can't have somebody that's going to give you the ultimatum of like, it's either me or the horse, because
right.
it'll never work
You'll
out
always
that
pick
way.
the horse.
Totally. And
Kick to the curb.
totally. I mean, I've devoted my whole life to evolving as, an athlete in this sport. So, whoever I married had to get on the train. So
So what are those competitions like? Like what's evaluated? Like how do you become successful in it? I know nothing about
it's
this.
okay. We call it horse ballet because dressage is literally teaching the horse how to dance and use their body. They're like bodybuilders. So the stronger they get, the more advanced movements they can do. It's an Olympic sport with the highest level being the Grand Prix. I was right at the base of the FEI levels, which is the first bracket of the international levels. My mare, she was too old to get to the Grand Prix, but that's okay. So when you go to a show, you ride a test for judges, and there's different levels in the United States. You have the national levels and then obviously the international levels. So you ride like a 6-minute pattern, you get your score back. You're basically paying someone to tell you that you stink, but, and then you get your score, it's all average, and then you get your placing.
Yeah.
So that's how our competitions work. There's actually a pretty good scene in Texas for dressage, which is encouraging. Houston, Dallas area is where you'll see a lot of the big hubs. San Antonio,
Not as much.
not as much.
Yeah.
My trainers just moved. We represented the buyer for their barn, which was very bittersweet, but they just moved to Ocala.
Okay.
So they're no longer here with me, but it's so different than what he does. He comes to dressage shows and he's like, this is just, I can't even, like, you girls are crazy. Just getting
know.
judged.
Yeah.
You're mad about everything.
Paying somebody to judge
I'm like,
you
we're
on
having so
something
much
you worked
fun.
really
What are you
hard.
talking
Yeah.
about?
So then what's your relationship with horses?
So I started a little bit later on in life. I played baseball basically my entire life from the time I was 4 to the time I was 22, out of college. And so once I got done with that, I was like, I just can't play golf every day.
Yeah.
I gotta do something else. And I've always loved rodeo and horses. And so I picked up team roping, which is basically completely opposite from Maddie. Like there's no judging. It's all about time. How fast can you go? How fast can you rope a steer?
I
And
don't care what you look like.
yeah,
or anything.
but we kind of cross train because a lot of the things that I have to do and making sure that my horses are good kind of fundamentally come from dressage, right? So like all the things that they do tie exactly into what we do. So it's kind of a nice little pairing with that. But yeah, we're all about speed and
We're about dancing.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Dancing.
technicality.
and I'm sure the horses are different.
Oh,
very
totally.
much so. Yeah. So I ride quarter horses, just straight quarter horses, which are, performance athletes in their own right. And then she's got the kind of warm blood and kind of more European horses.
Sculpted.
Yeah.
Sculpted.
Sculpted.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
fancy.
Yes,
So-
for the most part.
And that's
Dressage
why,
is for every
is
horse.
that why there's 4? It's 2 and 2?
Actually,
Kind
yes.
of.
Yes, actually.
Actually,
well,
yeah.
I had started out with one and then, a gray horse, and she had her mare.
Yeah.
And then right before we started dating, I had bought another one. And then she still had her mare. So we had 3 for the longest time. And then we bought this other gray horse for her. And so, yeah, it is 2 and 2,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice.
It's
That's
even.
cool.
And then right now we have, one, each of us really kind of has one that's still going
Ish.
and then one that's retired. So
Yeah.
we got the 2 retirees and the 2 that are still going.
Just
So
the pets.
yeah,
Yeah.
the pasture
Yeah.
pets, exactly.
But it
Nice.
was funny because when we met through a mutual friend,
Okay.
but he was working at Cooper in the Bernie office.
Oh, no way.
I'd already been
Oh,
working with
wow.
people for
Yeah,
like 3
so
or
he
4
was
years.
already
Oh,
working
wow.
with Cooper.
Yeah.
I had no idea who he was. That tells you how much I'm like in the office on the daily basis because I never even had seen him.
Because I'm an office guy. I go to the office
I
all the
work
time.
from
I have
home.
to.
I have
Keeps
my
you
home
focused.
Exactly. And I have to just have like this little space to go and work and kind of do my thing. And she does not. She like never came in the office.
I like my home office. Don't act like I don't work. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
No, I know, but
have
I
my
like to go
home
into town.
You like to get away from home,
Exactly.
go to town.
No,
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm comfortable at
Yeah,
home.
Yeah,
I
I
like
could
my
see that.
dog and
Yeah.
I like, my cute little office space. So we had never even like, I think he got the email that like, welcome Madelyn, at the time, Madelyn Bricken to Keeper Sotheby's. And I asked him the other day, I was like, what do you think about that email? I was like, I thought you were pretty, and then I deleted it. I'm like,
Love the honesty there.
Yeah, I mean,
gee, thanks.
I don't know. We get a lot. You know, when people come into the agency, it's like, okay, cool. Like,
Right.
okay, I'll meet you at some point.
delete.
Or
Right.
I'll meet
Right.
you
Right.
at a meeting or at a function or whatever, and then it's like delete and let's keep going. So
You obviously didn't read her bio.
I did not.
Yeah,
No,
missed that one.
Yeah, I did. But yeah,
Missed the mark on that one.
met through a mutual friend. You know, kind of
Outside
long
of
run.
Keeper?
outside of Keeper.
Outside.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And then we just kind of realized, like, oh wait,
We worked together.
we work together.
Yeah.
Oh.
Whoops.
Wow.
I
Actually,
love
I
that.
think when we first met, she came with the friend that introduced us,
Uh-huh.
and she said, "Hey, I've got to go show something real quick, and
Oh.
then I'll meet you." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh," and I kind of put it all together, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I got it,
Wow.
got
Wow.
it."
So what
So-
year was that?
2018.
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long did y'all date before you got married?
A year and a half.
Yeah, almost two.
And we've been
Yeah.
married for, it'll be 3 years next week.
Once
Yeah.
you met each other's
Crazy.
horses, you were like,
Exactly.
all right.
Actually-
That first night that we met, I was like, "Can I go feed your horses with you?"
Yeah, yeah. So we
Aw.
literally met at a restaurant right across from where my horses were, and so I was like, "I have to go feed, and then I'll come right back." And she's
Yeah.
like, "Well, let's go."
Nice.
So,
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
so-
such a match.
It was
That is
crazy.
a neat story.
Yeah.
It is. And
Yeah.
it just kind of melded. Like he and Charlie hit it off, and now they're always doing stuff around the property. And it's like, it just kind of worked. So,
Yeah.
but I married someone that knew what horses were all about. So that
Yeah.
was my life goal
Right.
complete.
There you go.
That's
Check.
awesome.
Yes.
Meant
check
to
mark.
be.
Check mark.
Yeah.
So before we walked up in here, we're talking about how there's a group, an equestrian group within Sotheby's, right? And I think it's so neat that within our network we have so many different specialities, but also different states, and you guys get together. And so, like, do y'all like do business back and forth? Like, I know that that's kind of like a tight knit community, right?
Yeah, sure. I think we always kind of keep an eye out for everybody. And whether we hear something from another agent, hey, I'm looking for an agent that's in Colorado, it's like, well, let me hook you up with somebody, or like, let me at least make an introduction.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that we as Sotheby's agents do really well, is like networking with each other across the state, across the nation, and even abroad. It's like we have all these connections all around the world. And so it's like we utilize them, and that's a great thing. So yeah, we have an Equestrian Sotheby's group, and we meet once a month.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's over Zoom,
Yeah.
and then we kind of just keep each other in the loop on stuff, via email.
Yeah.
But then we also have like a sportsman's collective, right? So it's basically a group of people that they specialize in hunting properties and sporting facilities and stuff like that. So
And that's all you, right?
yeah, exactly. So those two groups, they keep us pretty busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So what are some things like in the sportsman side of things that you would look for that somebody like me on the residential side wouldn't know to look for in that property?
Well, it kind of depends on what the client does on the property. Do they quail hunt? Do they deer hunt? Are they just after kind of the wildlife exemption? Or are they just wanting to make sure that the property kind of stays more natural? Do they have like a legitimate sporting facility where they've got, clay chutes, and they've got ponds, and they have, the deer set up and the dog kennels, and like, what are they, so we kind of just try to figure out exactly what do these people do, or what do these people want, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, and I can imagine that looking for comparable sales and trying to put a value in it is totally different.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very hard. And because, a lot of the properties that we run across, there's nothing like them really in the
Right.
area. Whereas like if you're just talking about residential, you kind of go, okay, well, just up the road, there's one that's similar to that. And this, it's like, well, 6 hours that way, there's
Yeah.
something that's kind of, resembles that. And so it is a little bit tricky, and that's where we kind of lean on each other to kind of
So
figure
do
it
you
out.
kind of try to separate like the value of the land and
Yeah.
then the value of the buildings
100%.
and
All the
things like that?
improvements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
been having to do that a lot this
Yeah.
year, I feel like, because we've had a lot of different type of listings.
Super
from
unique.
Sky West Stables now in Fredericksburg to our Utopia Ranch. It's very hard to comp something like that.
Yeah.
600 acres with an incredible house and, family compound, guest house, barns. How do you where do you go? You're in Utopia,
Yeah.
So it's hard. You have to really kind of, that's again where we all lean on each other and lean on Charlie. It's like, how do we break this down?
Yeah.
Break it down by the land and the improvements and replacement, value, all of that good stuff.
And then how do you market it, right? How do you get it out there? And it's funny because you mentioned that property in Fredericksburg. I actually got a social media image of it yesterday from Janelle, who's in
nice.
Scottsdale, Arizona. So,
wow.
so
Nice.
I think that's part of our network as well, right? Like we share each other's listings within our network, and so I thought it was interesting that I saw it from her.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Janelle actually, she was going to a horse show in, it might have been Arizona, but it could have been Oklahoma. And she reached out and said like, hey, what properties do you have? I'll print out flyers and I'm going to go post my properties. I'll go post yours.
Wow.
And so I think that's something that we have started to really do for each other is like, okay, you have a very specific property. I'm going to go here to meet with these people. Like, let me take it with me.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool that she does.
Because I feel like a lot of times these buyers are either from other states or international, and they're coming in from out of state, right?
Yeah.
They're
100%.
open to a bigger area usually.
For sure.
Yeah, and we always try to stay really connected with any referrals that we send out, right? Like I think some people have the idea that, oh, if I'm sending you to X, Y, and Z agent, I'm just kind of done. You know, I just send it to you and they'll handle it. It's like, no, we're in the trenches. Like we're working on a deal with them. Like
Totally.
if we have a referral that goes out, like we're actually helping manage that as well. So, and that's where building those connections and really figuring out what agents do you work really, really well with. And that you feel comfortable, because if we send a referral out, it's like, that's our reputation as well.
Right.
Sending it to an agent, they have to do a great job.
Exactly. You're partners with them, right?
100%.
Like you're still
Totally.
helping your client and advising them to a certain capacity, right?
And that's what we just did with selling my trainer's property. We represented the buyer on that one, and then we referred her to a fantastic agent through Sotheby's in Ocala. And Maria did an incredible job. I mean, just worked herself to the bone trying to get something going, because it is hard. You know, they were on a budget, and trying to find a horse facility with all the bells and whistles in Ocala is very difficult for under $3 million.
Sure.
You know, it's the market there has changed, I think, as much just from hearing from what my trainers were saying. You know, back in 2018, they went and they found a beautiful property with covered arena, barns, paddocks, the whole 9 yards for like $595.
Yeah.
And now that same property is $3 million.
yeah.
So it was a challenge, but we were, especially my mom, I mean, hands-on every day, talking to Maria, talking to Ava, talking to Josh. What's this? What's that? And so, and I feel like that agent that you referred, you know, your client to, they appreciate the extra help and the extra support, because you know that, like, we've known Ava and Joshua for 13 years. So we know how they operate. So we can tell Maria, like, hey, you know, here's how they're feeling. Here's how they're really feeling. You know, what can we do to try to, you know, make this deal happen? And so that was really cool to be able to connect with her in Florida. That was our first true out-of-state referral. And it went well. I mean, they closed on a property a couple weeks ago, so that was awesome. But you know, awesome. It's cool to have those connections and kind of see it come to fruition.
And do these properties come with like support staff, or do the owners do all of that, or like
they have to hire people for sure? I mean, it's a full. So many of those barns in Florida and in California, those are really where you see like the mecca for my world, the English world. Ocala and Wellington, you know, that's it. All of Florida, I would say, but like Wellington, West Palm, that's where you have, you know, dressage and the jumping capital, especially from January to April. California, you have the West Coast circuit. Mostly jumpers. They have a few dressage CDIs, which are the international competitions. But like for him, Arizona is a huge hub. And then, of course, Weatherford, Decatur, Stephenville, that area too is huge. So
nice. And then I saw both of y'all have a huge following on Instagram. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about?
It really started with her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of her story that I bled into, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I started the Blonde in the Bay in 2015.
Before Instagram was
before
like
Instagram was cool.
Right.
Yeah. It was like the, you know, what are the filters that you use on Instagram? And it was OG, no Lightroom, no presets, no nothing. But honestly, I just started it as a place to like post pretty pictures of my horse, because I knew like everyone on Facebook did not care. Like nobody cares. Like there's this weird horse girl, you know, but so that was me. And then I just kept posting and kept building my community. And now I've been doing it for 8 years. And it's turned into part of my business and who I am, obviously, as a person. I mean, I've poured so much love and heart into that platform. I have such a great community, I've met some of my very best friends. I was just in one of my best friends' I was her matron of honor in her wedding last summer, and I met her on Instagram like 6 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the connections, I mean, it's been such a journey, and I never thought it would get to where it is, because I just thought, well, I'm just going to post pictures of my pony. But to see that horse girl connotation, grow through the years. Now it's more of like a positive thing, versus when you're in middle school, everyone's like, oh, you're just like horses. You're weird.
Yeah.
Like, and now it's like, wow, like, okay, like there's people in the Western industry, the English industry, that are actually becoming successful.
Yeah.
And I hate saying the word influencer, because I just am posting things that I believe in.
Your true self.
Yeah. Like, and I have my friends on there, but it's brought so many fantastic opportunities outside of real estate. I don't use it really to plug my real estate career. I probably should, but there's a big part of me that's like, I like to keep it
authentic
separate.
to that.
Yeah. And I feel like the Blonde in the Bay is over here, and that's something that brings me a lot of joy when real estate is very stressful, and you're going through the trenches. You have something else to look forward to. So it's been really, really amazing just to see it grow and the opportunities that come with it. And then he kind of,
I piggybacked.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna hop on that train.
Yeah, exactly.
Might as well.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like she said, I mean, it was more of a creative outlet, right?
Yeah.
It was like, when I'm done for the day doing real estate, like I love photography and videography and the horses. And
so y'all create the content yourselves?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We do everything
is shot by one of us.
Oh, very cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's been fun. It's been fun to kind of pick up a YouTube channel and then do the Instagram deal, and it's brought us a lot of opportunities just kind of within that space that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And there's so many great people out there.
It is.
And you're right.
It's fun.
We probably should plug a lot more than we do that we do real estate. But like, I don't think anybody on my Instagram knows I do real estate.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
select few do.
just
online.
maybe 1 out of 10 posts.
I know.
Throw property
I
on
know.
there. It
We
doesn't have
need
to be
to.
all over it.
We probably should, but
I don't know. I feel like guarded, because that's such a different part of my life. Maybe because it is like our family and whatnot. I'm like,
This is your thing.
yeah, like it's what are the odds of? I mean, I guess yes, like maybe 1 in 37,000 people.
That's your
he's
target
just like,
market.
I know.
I'm like, guys.
Guys, you gotta.
I know. We're bad about that.
Yeah.
We need to, but it's nice to have the separation, or else I feel like it gets overwhelming. To like having that little slice of the internet where you can go and not have to worry about the stressors of the days.
This is how I do it. If you're worried about them knowing that you do it, maybe just say, "Oh, check out this property." I'm not saying you're
listed by
listing
my
agent
friend.
or anything. Well, you don't even have to say it's for sale. You just showcase the property, and then people will DM you, "Where is this at?"
Yeah, that's true.
And then you can start side conversations on an individual basis instead of just
for sure. And we did that with Twisted Rose when we had that big thoroughbred Arabian farm listed in Kerrville back in 2020.
Yeah.
It was Patrick Swayze used to keep his horses there. They had like the
Wow.
whole ballroom dance floor above the arena built
coolest
for
horse property
him.
to date.
I think that's the coolest horse property we've ever. I mean, you could eat off the floor in
Wow.
the barn.
It
was
was
That's
stained
awesome.
glass windows.
Yes, beautiful glass
ballrooms,
murals.
Yeah.
like upstairs. It was crazy.
It was amazingly gorgeous. So that one, I was like, okay, this one actually deserves to live on the Blonde in the Bay for a little bit. And we did some open houses, and so I loved showcasing that. But for the most part, you know, it's like
Well, I feel like those properties go hand in hand with what y'all post.
Sure.
Right.
they do.
And it's interesting to people that follow you for your horse post to see horse properties.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. For
It
sure.
goes hand
Gotta
in hand.
go home and brainstorm.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can keep it authentic too.
You
The
can
brand.
keep it
Yeah, for
authentic.
sure.
It's not like you're posting a duplex
To
for
sell.
sale. You're posting a horse
You
farm.
can stick your
It's
miniature horse
interesting.
in the backyard.
And they're beautiful,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're interesting
They're
just for
unique.
people that aren't interested in real estate.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah. No, we probably should. There's a lot of things we probably should do.
Action item number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
All
we're
right.
gonna go home and make a to-do list when we get
So
home.
if you see a post from us pretty
like,
soon, you know
shout
it started
out.
here. Yeah.
I'm gonna share it.
There you go.
Start sharing.
There you go.
No,
For
it's
sure.
and we love doing it together, you know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of as obviously we're married and husband and wife, but our marriage has kind of become almost a little bit of our brand. I
Yeah.
feel like,
Yeah.
because we have that funny dynamic of team roping and dressage, and we put funny videos together. And some of our friends are like, wow, these are actually hysterical. How do you come up with it? I'm like, because we were literally arguing over this in real life context last week. Like, we're not making it up. Like, every funny thing that you see on there, we've actually probably said it to each other in a more straightforward tone than what we post on Instagram. But it's fun. I mean, like I said before, I used to be so not ashamed, but just like, oh, people are gonna think I'm weird that I do this. And now I'm like, no, look at what I've built. Like for the last 8 years, this is awesome. And having him to, you know, be part of it, and he's an amazing photographer and videographer. It helps.
Well, I think everyone's weird to a certain extent.
Right? We all have our thing.
But when you stop listening to everybody else and you step into who you really are, you find your tribe.
It's very freeing.
And those people don't find you weird. Those find you inspirational.
Yeah. Right. There's probably young girls watching you thinking the same thing and being motivated, you know?
Yeah. And I get probably a message a week saying, hey, man, I started roping because I saw your stuff. You know, or I go to a team roping and someone's like, dude, I watch your videos all the time. And so there's a lot of cool things that have come out of that, you know, like people, and so it's well worth it for sure. I mean, it's great. And if we can get one more person into horses that wasn't in before, that's all that matters really at the end of the day.
What you're doing is you're being authentic, right? Authentic to your true self. And
we have a lot of brands that have come to us and say, like, we saw that she does the English side and you do the Western side and you guys work well together. Like, let's do something because of you too. Right. And so,
which is so crazy because I never thought that would ever even happen. I mean, just we're in October. So 2 months ago, I was in Dallas for Dallas Market. They wanted to work with me for ADA and WESA, which is the big trade show for the Western industry and the English industry. And that was like my ultimate, wow, okay, like my hard work for the last 8 years, like it's starting to pay off. And so to be able to do that as a Style Eye influencer and now being invited back for January, and hopefully Barrett will be with me in August, that's such a fantastic opportunity, not only to network your social media following to all of these businesses and brands and fellow influencers. It's such a great opportunity to talk real estate too. You know, hey, if you're ever in Texas, give us a call. We can refer you out of state. Like this is what we do. And my mom was with me in August. And so she was kind of like, oh, by the way, if you ever, here's my business card. And she was passing out business cards. I'm like, Mom, this is a fashion market. She's like, I don't care. Here's my real estate card. No. So it's such a great, I know my mom is so cute. So it's a great opportunity to really network within our industry, people that are not only just there to buy, for their store or showcase their product. They might know someone that needs a horse property or and land acreage, so we can kind of use that, utilize that.
The beautiful thing about real estate is that everybody needs it in some sort of capacity, right?
Exactly.
Either buying, to live in it, to rent it, to get an office space.
Develop something.
Everybody is a potential client.
For sure.
And the thing is, we don't know when they're going to buy or sell, but if we just make relationships, especially within your own industry and within the things that you really enjoy doing, that's when you just build a deeper connection. And then whenever they decide that they need to buy or sell, they're going to call their friend who happens to be a realtor.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like that's so much of our business is our friends and then repeat clients that come from our friends that refer us. Like very rarely do we get someone that calls us. We had one, I think, in last year, said, I read your bio online. Can you help us? Like that's so rare for me and my mom. It's always like repeat and just people, and Mom and I have a certain demographic that I think we're really good at, and then Barrett helps us more on the land side, dealing with the other male, land brokers, that kind of side of it. So
and I think I've only had one client that's ever come from a digital print or a Facebook ad or a billboard or whatever the case may be. Like it's all relationship driven 100%.
Totally.
I always used to think that whatever agent spent the most money on marketing, that's who got all the deals, and it's just not the case.
Well, case in point, he wrote a letter to the gentleman that owned Eureka, and that's how he got that $10 million listing, was just through a letter.
Handwritten letters. Those have been my go-to since I started.
You spent 50 cents on the stamp.
And
50 cents on the stamp.
Wow.
Everything else is pretty much in the office, and you can...
He just closed it on it 2 weeks ago. He won't say that, but he's humble.
It
was huge.
It was great. It was awesome. It was cool. But going back to kind of why we do what we do, like me, I like the relationships, number one, the history of the properties, number two, right? And so like that's been the cool thing, especially with a lot of these horse properties or hunting properties. Like tell me what this property has to offer. Like any agent can go out and say, oh, it's got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 10 acres, whatever. But like, what is the
makes it
history?
special?
Like, what is the history of this place that somebody else is going to want to know?
Right.
And so I think that's something that y'all have done really well, and I think a lot of our agents do really well. Is like, tell me what else. Like anybody that has a license can go take photos and put it on MLS. It's
Right.
like, what else?
Yeah, being able to tell that story.
100%.
Yeah, and the relationship too, making those friendships with your clients. Like
Right.
they're not just your client. Like take them to lunch,
Yeah.
like take them to dinner. Go, if they're able, like hang out with them.
Right.
Make that connection.
Relationship.
Because I think it matters, and that's where some of our clients are some of our great friends, and
Yeah.
we keep up with them, and we do repeat deals with them. We had one client in 21 where we helped get the house ready to sell by helping her clean it all out. We sold that one. We helped her buy a ranch in Junction. We helped her sell her other house in Kerrville. It was 1, 2, 3 back
Yeah.
and forth. And then now she'll call, she's looking for a little house in Mason. So she'll send me stuff and say, hey, let's go look at this. Hey.
Right.
So just to have that trust in a world that can be kind of cutthroat,
Yeah.
because I feel like everyone at the end of the day is kind of out for themselves. So to have those clients that really trust you and want to come back and work with you is huge. And those relationships, I think, are the ones that are really important to foster.
And everyone knows 18 realtors. I think it's like the
Oh,
Yeah.
stat.
totally.
So
Totally.
they're gonna go with the one that actually has a relationship with
Yeah.
them.
Go deep with a few people that actually
that
Yeah.
matter
Matter.
and that are kind to you. I think that's a huge thing, or
Yeah.
the clients that are actually kind and understanding and want to work with you, because at the end of the day, I think some people forget, like, we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Like we want to sell your house as badly as you want to sell your house. We want to sell it.
And we
Yeah.
want to get
So-
you the most amount. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, there's a fine line between just
Exactly.
reaching for the stars and not
And being
getting-
realistic.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be okay. This year for my mom and myself, it's been a big year of putting that boundary up mentally. Like, okay, what are we willing to sacrifice our mental health to deal with? And
Yeah.
sometimes it comes to where you're at the end of the listing agreement and you're like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
You need to find somebody who you're comfortable with. And mom and I literally just went through that this week. And it was a very freeing process for us because we had worked very hard. We'd had a ton of showings. It was a difficult property to sell. And the chemistry was off.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think it's not fun to have that conversation, obviously, but I
Right.
think it helps you grow as a person and a realtor to be able to say, hey, obviously I'm losing out on making money here in a sale, but you needed to go do something that makes you happier.
Right.
'Cause we don't feel like we're fulfilling that role for you. And then you fill that space with a property that requires a little bit more attention, like Sky West Stables. We can pour our energy into that now, work on our clients in Utopia, our hotel. So, it's like an ebb and flow,
Exactly.
I think.
You let go of that energy and then you open yourself up for more.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and if the chemistry is okay, like we have a couple that are bigger properties that take a year or more to sell,
Absolutely.
but our relationship with the client is great, right? And they're understanding, they understand the market, they know that they're maybe asking a little bit too much at the beginning, so it's like we will renew that listing agreement.
Yeah.
But to your point, if the energy's off,
It
we
just
won't.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be mature enough to understand that.
Right. You can't
know?
just wait it out.
No, and you
think
can't
that something's
force
gonna
it.
happen.
Exactly. Or you can't say, let me try one more time. Let me try one more time. You can, but I think to a point, there comes that turning point where you're like, okay, I need to let go. And that's fine because I
Yeah.
feel like if you work hard, another opportunity it comes.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, I think for new agents, it's hard to not be attached to the outcome. But I
For
always
sure.
try to preach that, right? Like, don't be attached to the outcome. Put in your best work, obviously. Like, do your best to sell the property, but things are gonna happen, and
Yeah.
you
and
know,
it happens organically.
exactly.
You can't force it. I mean, I had my license in 2018. I didn't make my first sale till 2020.
Yeah.
Same with mom. And then in 21, it just kind of went up from here. And I mean, 22 was harder and this year has been harder, but you just work hard to find those clients that understand.
Yeah.
We're doing everything that we can to try to market your property, and the higher prices are more challenging. So it can be a little bit, take longer time, like you said. So I think when you have that relationship and they trust you, that's the key.
For sure.
Yeah.
When I first got into this business, I knew that networking was important, and so I'll try and network as much as I could. But my tactic was off. Like I would go out and try and meet as many people as I could. So at a conference, I would literally like go shake somebody's hand, talk to them for like 10 seconds, go meet the next person, then go and meet
Kind
the
of like
next
speed
person.
dating.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you don't get anything out of that.
You don't need 500 contacts. You need like 50 solid ones.
Exactly.
Right? You don't need all of these people. You just need the really solid people that'll help you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, so now I've been going to a lot of Sotheby's International Realty networking events, but I don't really have a plan of attack of I'm going to meet all these people. I just show up, let things flow, and whoever's in front of me, I just focus my attention
start a conversation
with them.
with.
And and we'll talk as long as we need to talk. And if I met 5 people that entire week, that's totally good with me because I went deep with them.
Yeah, and I think it was really cool for Eureka to come from Barrett's letter. You know, that was an older gentleman that appreciated somebody taking the time to write him a handwritten letter, not a printed out letter, and just say, hey, if you're ever interested in selling, give me a call. And sure enough, you know, that's all it took was just that. And so when things are a little bit slower, you know, we're done usually Thursdays, Fridays, I'll come into the office at home, and Barrett will be working at home in the afternoons. And he'll be up just with the CAD and pulling up addresses and just writing letters and trying to make those connections, because I feel like there's people out there that are still very old school.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, that appreciate the handwritten letter versus the email?
That's like their language.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I've kind of, I took a sales training course a few years back, and one of their things was like, whatever your competition is doing, do the opposite.
Yeah.
Do the opposite. Because I know, especially in Bernie, there's a specific neighborhood that I've talked to some of those owners, and they say, we get 5 direct mail pieces from agents a week.
Yeah.
5 of them.
Yeah.
Because that property, that little area is really hot, good pricing. They always sell really quick. And so it's like, I can't be that guy. Right. And so, it's just doing something a little bit different.
And I don't think we want to be
It's
that.
oversaturated.
Yeah, we don't want to be those people.
Yeah.
And you mentioned he writes letters.
Yes.
And he got, one big deal out of one of them. But my point there is that you can't just, do something and expect a return on it right away.
No.
And people ask me, like, how do you become successful in real estate? And I tell them, it's not one thing. It's everything.
It's
your way of life,
Yeah.
putting in the work every day. And you're going to do a lot of things that are not going to have a return on it. But you just have to keep going.
And if you know that you're doing the right thing every single day, if you like truly believe that you're doing this right thing that's going to improve my business every single day, you won't see the results immediately, but you'll see those results down. And to your point, I think last year
I was going to ask, how many letters do you think you've written in the last 2 years?
I think I wrote, like, just last year, I think 3,000.
Oh, wow.
He's like on it. Yeah.
And you know what? Most of those go unread.
Yeah.
Some of them come back.
Yeah.
But you get one.
I get a couple that'll say, hey, yeah, come look at this thing.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I got your letter. I'm going to save it.
Yeah.
And they save it. They save those letters. And so that's just something that I think is really cool. And so, yeah, some of them I never hear from those people, but that's fine.
But you don't really need to hear from everyone.
No.
Like I said, you get one $10 million listing and it's like, okay.
And that's how you have to look
at
it. If I do all this work and I get this one deal, is all that work worth that one deal?
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, it's like the things that you put in today, you'll get 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, right? Like there's some deals that have come that it was because I networked 8 years ago.
Sure.
And just now they're coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Like, you're planting the seeds.
Yeah.
You got to water the seeds and eventually it'll grow into a tree.
Yeah.
For
Things
sure.
you think that weren't a big deal come back and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, or I thought that didn't matter, and everything counts.
Yeah. Well, and I always say, like, the letter is personal to me. Like when I'm sitting there writing, it's going to take me 5 or 6 minutes to write that letter.
Yeah.
Like it's personal to me because real estate is a personal business.
Right.
Right. And so you need to make it personal.
Yeah.
Those clients have to understand, like, it is personal for me to help you sell your property for the most amount of money or help you get into your dream home or whatever the case may be. So it's a personal business.
Even if those letters go unread, like you took the time to look at that property, think of what you're going to write in it. So you're studying the market. You're looking at the market every day.
For sure.
And I stinking love this business. I mean, truly, right? I drive past a house. I'm like, that is a gorgeous house. I'm going to write you a letter and say, it's a gorgeous house.
Yeah.
Even if you never call me back, it's still a gorgeous house.
I think I've lost count how many houses I've looked at just being in a real estate family, and we move a lot. I mean, literally, I think we've moved like 30 times because Charlie will get into a house, and that's how you make money in real estate, right? I mean, he'll get into a house, we'll be there for about 2.5 years. He's like, I'm bored, let's move.
Yeah.
No lie. So none of our family ever knows where we are. We're either, Pleasanton, the coast, Bernie, Sisterdale, the whole 9 yards. But I think just being in that world from a young age, you know, seeing the relationships that Charlie had established. You know, he has, I always call him the mayor, because we can't go out anywhere in San Antonio without somebody saying, Charlie, how are you? He can, you know, attest to that. But he's created these relationships throughout his years in business. Yeah. So when we have properties, he has connections that he can call and, you know, utilize, that he's established from many, many years ago. Right. And I think that's what sets Cooper apart, is that obviously we're in the upper echelon of real estate business in Texas, but all of our agents, I feel like, take it to the next level seriously. You know what I mean? Like, we're not just, you know, some Joe Blow on the street, you know, just sending out willy-nilly letters. Like, relationships really matter for us, because I think it hits harder for us because it's our family, you know, and so we have that obligation, you know, that to
carry on the tradition.
Exactly. To carry on that. And, you know, my grandmother, Kathleen, even at 98, she still like tries to be as involved as she can. And we were with her the other day. She's like, this is my baby. Like, I love it. And so when you see it from our side, and like how Kathleen is still very much emotionally invested, it's like, oh, okay. Like, we take our relationships very, very seriously, because that's how we're going to make, you know, not just sales, but more contacts, more networking, more, well, I guess, sales, but in a more personal way.
And we have proof that relationships work, right? Like at Cooper Sotheby's International Realty, we have the highest per agent sales volume on average across all brokerages. Which so the agents that work with those, they really sell the most real estate. And what the benefit to the client there is that we have the relationships, we have the connections, we have the volume, we're doing the transactions. So we're not just selling 1 or 2 homes per year and not know what we're doing. Like, this is our life.
It is. And our marketing team is, I mean, Katie I have her on speed dial. Yeah. So, I mean, they're make amazing. Our life so much easier, and the packets and the presentations that we can deliver to our potential clients. You just can't. We talk about this with Charlie all the time. It's like, you literally can't.
Yeah. Well, it's the reason that I came to Cooper originally, because I was with another brokerage for a year. I was like, I'm having to do all of my own marketing, all of my own this, all of my own that, and it's terrible. Like, it was bad at that time. You know, and I got it in 2013, so it was bad. And so when I met with Jay, he laid it out like, hey, this is what you're getting, this is what your clients are getting. More importantly, it was like, done. Just where do I sign?
That's really one of our differentiators, is that our client's not getting one person that has to figure out how to do everything in a transaction, right? They're getting an entire team, marketing team, support staff, leadership, us, our assistants. So it's like they're really getting a whole team. And so our value is really a lot higher than everybody else's.
Yeah. And I've taken listing packets, you know, our beautiful listing packets, and showed it to clients, and they're like, take this back to your office. It's too nice to be in my house.
Right? Like, sometimes, like, wait, we don't want to keep this here. It's okay.
I'm like, no, this is for you. Like, we made this for you. And they're like, no, take that to somebody else. It's so nice.
That was, you know, the marketing side of things. That was Charlie's baby. I remember that's the one thing Mom always will tell me, is that was Charlie's, because that's how you put your best foot forward. And he, you know, designed the Flying K. We had the magazine. I'm literally sitting here trying to remember Casas, Haciendas, and what?
And ranches,
maybe something like that. He's gonna kill me that I can't remember.
Sorry.
That was
sorry,
like,
Charlie.
I know, I'm sorry, but he put out a magazine. I don't remember how frequently it was. We have a lot of the old copies of these beautiful properties that he designed. He wrote the letter for the first page every single month. You know, that was his thing, and the attention to detail. And so I think I picked up on that, because I mostly enjoy like the marketing, the writing, that kind of thing. And like I said, Mom's really good at the other side, but when you're able to give that to someone and they're so impressed, that was, you know, our Utopia clients, when we put together the website and the pamphlets and the copy, and then the listing got picked up in Cowboys and Indians, which was, you know, huge. They were like, wow, this is like a whole thing. We've never had this concierge service before.
And going back to kind of how Sotheby's really, the Cowboys and Indians magazine, correct me if I'm wrong, that came from Sotheby's. Like, Sotheby's was looking at properties for this specific thing and said that one works.
Oh,
so
wow.
when we talk to clients about like global reach and like what Sotheby's did, like Cooper Realty was really, really good, especially in this area. But when Cooper Sotheby's came about, we really opened it up to like just everything. Everything is on the table, and this is what you're getting when you come to this brokerage. It's not like one agent doing all the marketing. It's like this entire team across even to Sotheby's is helping out with this deal.
Yeah, so for just like quick background, it's like it was Cooper Realty, right? And it was the best brokerage in Central Texas. And then what Sotheby's does is they go to these different markets and they partner with the best brokerages, and then they combine the global reach of Sotheby's with that local agency, and that's how Cooper Sotheby's International Realty came about. So it's like
Cooper Realty Corp, and the colors were black, I think, or dark navy and maroon.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Now it's obviously our beautiful navy and white.
Yeah.
But,
And so now we have that global reach, and yeah, to your point, it's not only within the network, but we also have like very particular advertising options, right? Like if we want to advertise in the Wimbledon, or if we want to advertise in the Wall Street Journal, like we're able to
we
do
can
so.
put you where you want to
Yeah.
be.
For sure.
And I think Jay has just done an amazing job with the company. I mean, he's taken it to new heights. Charlie always jokes like, I don't even know who works for us anymore. I'm like, you don't have to. It's okay. You just
taken
don't
care of.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But Jay has done an astronomical job in making Cooper, I think, in what it is today. So
Yeah, so Jay's the third generation, right? And they typically say that third generation business is where it fails, but Jay's taking it to the next
he's
level.
broken all the stereotypes. But
Yeah.
it's been really cool to see him come out in his glory and take Cooper to the next level.
And what I really like about Jay is that even though he's so busy with so many things going on, every time I call him, he always gets back to me.
Yeah.
If I ask him to go play golf, he'll find time to go play golf. Like, so he's so accessible to the agents,
Down
which
to
is,
earth.
I think it's
Yeah.
rare, right? Whenever somebody is playing
totally.
at such a high level.
Yeah. It almost seems like they're untouchable. But for Jay, I mean, for us, it's always been, well, he's just my cousin. But now, like, to see him in this new role that, well, it's not new, but you know what I mean? It's like, wow, like, you're doing cool things. Like, this is amazing.
I think we need to have a poll of like the best, management principle of a brokerage and like see where because he's got to be up there with all
he
time.
and Carolyn,
For sure.
for sure.
Yes.
Well, even when I go to Sotheby's events, like people tell me about Jay and about our marketing, and they're also Sotheby's affiliates, and like we really kind of stand out as well.
Yeah.
So it's been cool seeing that.
Yeah.
It sets the vibe for the whole culture too.
It does.
Because we're all about relationships, and he's all about relationships, and it just kind of trickles down the line for how we treat our clients and how we treat each other.
Yeah,
no
for
doubt.
sure. Yep.
Well, and I think you guys have done a really good job of networking with the agents, and that's something that I really didn't do very much of. I mean, I always was like, all right, let me network with people who own real estate, right, or people who want to buy real estate. But I think what you guys have done a really good job with is networking within our Sotheby's agents. And so that's what I've really started working on is like, how do we do that better?
It's made a big difference. I've been with the brand for 8 years now, but I didn't really start networking with the brand until about 4 years ago when I went to my first event. It was called the West Coast Level Up in California. And then from there, I got so many incoming referrals, especially because we're in California, coming to Texas. And I was like, wow, there's something here, right? So then I started going to more and more events. Well, now when we track our business, about 30% of it comes from other agents from the network. So that's when I decided to really take a stand on
Next level.
networking.
Yeah.
And so like this month in October, I've been to New Jersey already. I just came back from Houston yesterday, and I'm going to Hawaii next week.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have a big development coming up in Fredericksburg where you'll be able to do short-term rentals, and I'm going to launch it with the network first. And so I've been traveling around, talking to everybody about it, building an interest list, and agents from everywhere are like, yeah, put me on your list. I want to know about it when it comes out.
That's
So
awesome.
it's beneficial to our clients, not only to get business out of those agents, but also when you have a big project or an important property, to be able to send it out to the relationships that you have.
For sure. Because I feel like the very unique properties, it requires those different minds outside of your
Absolutely.
typical bubble, especially when the market is different now than it is in 21. You kind of can't right now just launch a listing and within 5 minutes you have 30 showings.
Right.
It's not happening anymore. So you have
Right.
to go out and really try to hunt down your buyer. And that's when your connections from your network really help. I mean, we send all of our horse properties to our people in Florida, to California, because those are typically the people that are going to come to Texas with horses that can afford something what we're selling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just the referrals back and forth, but also just the ideas, right? Like
For sure.
this network
Motivation.
they're living
Yeah.
the same things that we're experiencing, And so we can bounce ideas back and forward to each other.
It's good to feel not so alone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's something that we're actively, especially 2024, just kind of looking into that year is like, all right, what big events can we go to? G&E, T&E. There's even a ranch networking group, in Martha Turner.
Yep.
So they've got one up there. And so we're trying to figure out like, all right, where are we going to go and who are we going to talk to and have a good time. So, because I want to sell ranches only. You know, I love that so much. And so it's like, let me help be your resource. Even if I don't get the referral from you, like, let me just, we can chat about it and let's talk it over.
And that's that abundance mindset, right? Like you're looking to just help out in any way that you can.
Yeah.
Which is very important.
Right. You don't have a goal in sight, like an end goal from someone. You're just sharing ideas, giving value, and it eventually turns into something.
Yeah.
for sure. I feel like that's how all four of us kind of run our businesses. Yes, it's good to have goals of like, I would love to be here, but I think, setting that, well, I'm going to do X amount of business this year. I think that's almost setting yourself up for a little bit of failure, because if you don't hit that mark, it hurts extra hard. Like, wow, I didn't work that hard this year. Or, wow, I failed. Or wow.
Right.
So I know my mom and I, we just take it as each project comes along.
Yeah.
And that's how we manage, like, okay, we're working on this. And if it's a little bit of a dry spell, okay, then what do we need to shift on our listings to try to bring more buzz to that? And, we sometimes are like, I have no idea what to do next. So that's when we call Carolyn or call Katie. Okay, how can we market this differently? What can we do now? So it's great to have those ideas to bounce off of each other. But I think putting that subconscious pressure on yourself to perform gets in the way of your being authentic with your clients.
It's interesting how you talk about that and goals, right? Because for the longest time I've had financial goals, but we just came back from a ninja installation. And even though they encourage you to set financial goals, we write our affirmations. And this year I changed it. Instead of setting a financial goal for my affirmation, I just said, I enjoy serving 200 families per year. And that's my affirmation. So I switched it from a financial goal to just a number of families.
Just the mindset alone, And when we first started, it was like, I need to make money. What can I do to make money? And now I've realized that was not very healthy.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, what can I do to just be present with my clients?
Yeah.
And how is this going to make me feel good? And Mom and I were just talking about this at lunch yesterday. It's like we've reached a point in our business where we can kind of pick and choose.
Yeah.
Where, okay, we know this person, they've been great to work with. Let's continue to grow that relationship. Or this isn't really working for us. If they call us and our first thought is, oh no, then something needs to change. But, it's really hard, I think, for me. Barrett always jokes that I take everything too personally. I do. I read something online. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, you read the comments. I'm like, yeah, because like I want it. And he never reads the comments.
Yeah.
But it's
Never
hard, we being on social media and being a real estate agent too, everyone is posting, oh, we just closed this, we're making this, we're 10 million over here, we're this and that, and you're over here like, wow,
comparing.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard not to compare yourselves, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when things are a little bit slower, I find that's when I'm like, oh my God, like I'm such a failure this year, like, and so you just having my support system in the family, that's just kind of like, it is what it is. It's always an ebb and flow. So I think having that mindset and the healthy goals is what keeps you sane in this industry.
Right, because you can't control the outcome ever.
You can't ever.
The only thing you can do is work on the steps to get you towards that.
Absolutely.
But you can't worry yourself about worrying about what's going to happen. You can't,
and especially like for Eureka, we had that under contract from February to just the end of September, and they needed that long to move horses around, but everything was smooth sailing until the last week. Yeah. And then it almost fell apart. And Barrett was able to get it to the closing table, thank God. But it's like, you can't take anything for granted. All you can take is just one day at a time and continue to get there and pray about it and just keep your nose to the ground and keep working. But if you are constantly, like just trying to set that goal of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I don't know that that's the most like successful approach.
Right. The way I judge myself is, did I do the things that I said I was going to do? Yeah. Rather than how much did I sell this year,
exactly.
Right? If I woke up every day and put in my best effort and I did the things I said I was going to do, then I see that as a successful year.
Yeah.
Successful day, successful week, successful month.
And that's an important narrative that I think more agents should talk about. It's like, you know, of course, social media is such a highlight reel. We only want to post like,
Yeah.
and I was doing that in 21. I mean, we were once a month, everything, you know, it was great. We were, you know, almost $20 million that year, which for us in our first full year of real estate,
It's amazing.
we were proud of that.
Incredible.
We were proud of that. But now that we're on that other side of that market now, it's not like that for at least for us. You know, we're still making good deals, but it's not a $40 million a year. But I've reached a point where I'm like, I'm okay with that.
Right.
Like it's okay. I like,
Right.
and so I like that narrative too of like, of course I want to see everyone's success. That's amazing. But at some point it kind of becomes like, okay, is anyone else struggling right now? Like, where's the real, like, let's talk about that.
Right.
You
The
know?
real gets lost.
Yeah, the real does get lost. So it's nice to have platforms like this and what you're doing to be able to talk about all aspects of the real estate industry, not just the successes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I really like that. I just keep an open format. Like we didn't plan anything that we were going to talk about,
Yeah.
and like we can just be real and honest, and
Yeah.
just talk about whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that, we're at the top of the hour. Do y'all have any closing thoughts?
I don't think so, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank
it was
you
a
for
blast.
having us.
Thank y'all
Yeah,
for
of
coming.
course.
Of
Yeah.
course.
It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having y'all here. You're watching Inaky's Coffee Club. Make sure to hit the subscribe button.